Hello, my name is Chase McClish, and today I'm going to be talking about one of the worst nuclear disasters of all time, Chernobyl. Chernobyl, a city with the biggest nuclear disaster of all time. The city used to host about 15,000 people, but now holds no one. It is considered to be a ghost town now. The blast has changed the city and the area surrounding Chernobyl. The blast occurred at Chernobyl Power Complex. This complex was located about 130 kilometers north of Ukraine and about 20 kilometers south of the border of Belarus. The Chernobyl Power Complex had 4 nuclear reactors at the time of the explosion. These 4 nuclear reactors were not all built at the same time. The first 2 nuclear reactors were built in 1970 and 1977. The next 2 had the same design and were finished up in 1983. On April 25th, the crew of Chernobyl 4, the 4th reactor, began to plan for a test. The plan made for the test was to see how long the turbines would supply power after a loss of the main electrical power supply in the city. The test ended up having a big issue, though, resulting in the blast. There was an unexpected power surge from the reactor, leading to multiple explosions that blew up the reactor and severely damaged the entire facility. After the facility was completely destroyed, this blast resulted in about 80 deaths immediately or shortly after the blast. But due to radiation, there's about 4,000 deaths associated with the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Most of these deaths are due to cancer from radiation exposure. The blast also affected the area and the environment around Chernobyl. The 2 most affected ecosystems due to the radiation were the forest and freshwater bodies. Radiation exposure happens because of radionuclides, which are atoms that emit radiation. These radionuclides were absorbed by plants and eventually absorbed even by the animals. Forest foods, including berries, mushrooms, and game, all contain high levels of radiation, making them unsafe. These foods are expected to contain high levels for many decades, making them unsafe to eat for a very long time. The wildlife in Chernobyl has also seen a great increase over time. Due to the blast, many people do not live there, resulting in these increases of wildlife. The city of Chernobyl itself was also affected, but not by the blast directly, but by people leaving. When the explosion of Reactor 4 happened, the city was told to evacuate, and ever since, the city has become a ghost town where nobody lives at all. But some people still are able to tour the area. These tourist options allow the people to go and see Chernobyl for what it is today, but still remain safe, as radiation checks are made throughout the tour to make sure that people are not being exposed too badly to radiation. Since the town is run down, vegetation has grown throughout. There's also many animals who roam the streets, and many who have taken shelter in the buildings surrounding Chernobyl. The area of Chernobyl and the surrounding forests have seen a significant increase in wildlife, as shown on the graph before. This is because, without anyone living there, there's no one to scare away or hunt these animals. This also means that there is no trash in the lakes or pollution or fishing to decrease the population of fish, which has seen the biggest increase in population. Animals that are now running free there have not been seen in many other countries roaming free. For example, there is free horses and free dogs, which people have not seen for hundreds of years. Even 30 years after, scientists are not sure when the city of Chernobyl will be habitable again. The explosion of Reactor 4 is the biggest nuclear disaster of all time, which resulted in a lot of radiation. The blast was so terrible it affected so much around it, even spreading radiation as far as Sweden. In Sweden, though, not many people were exposed to where they were sick, but the radiation has traveled far enough and been strong enough throughout that travel to make people in other cities expose and become sick or even get cancer. Scientists have speculated, though, when the area of Chernobyl might be habitable again. Scientists have speculated that it should be habitable in about 20,000 years. One thing that is considered to be a symbol of the blast of Chernobyl is the elephant's foot. On that day, April 26th, 1983, when the blast actually occurred, Reactor 4 had a uranium core that reached very high temperatures. These temperatures reached about 1600 degrees Celsius. This temperature melted a lot of metals down, holding elements of different types. All of these elements became mixed. The things that got mixed were glass, zirconium, uranium, sand, steel, and concrete. All of this combined to make a glass-like lava. This lava melted through multiple floors and was not found until 1986 due to how far it melted down in Chernobyl. This mass was called the elephant's foot due to its shape. The elephant's foot is still very intensely radioactive, which people say makes it the symbol of the blast of Chernobyl. Today, Chernobyl is a city with a lot of vegetation and much wildlife. The areas surrounding and the city of Chernobyl have been changed drastically forever. The blast was the worst nuclear disaster of all time. But a lot has been learned from this blast about radiation